My number 3 guy is also my guy and Schwinn's guy, apparently, Cade Klubnik out of Clemson, senior year. This will be his 3rd year being the starting quarterback for the Clemson Tigers. He came in a few spots here and there. His freshman season, the DJ Ungule season, where they still won the ACC. Cade, I still have as a early first-round pick grade. I'd have him in a top 10 pick grade. Everyone going forward is not a top 10 pick for me right now, including the next guy. Cade, things I love about him, ball placement. He throws a beautiful deep ball. The ability of he's the best quarterback in this class of throwing a ball with touch, with arc, down the field. He's brilliant at throwing the basketball, if that makes sense. He's great at throwing the deep ball that just flies right over the receiver's shoulder and they catch it in the basket. That's his best throw that he's got. The ability to use his legs, I don't think he gets enough credit for. I think he's been one of the better Tigers at using his legs, if not the best. Although Trevor Lawrence is a high ceiling to get over. But the ton of experience, I think, is going to help him a ton. That'll be 3 years starting quarterback for the Clemson Tigers. They play in essentially a pro system for the most part. There's a little bit of spread that isn't necessarily the NFL as much. And he also hasn't taken much of any snaps under center. Biggest thing for Cade right now, this is coming from a Clemson Tiger fan, is he's not necessarily a gamer. He can be stopped. He can be slowed down. And this was shown last season in the Georgia game, the Louisville game, the South Carolina game. If everything's not necessarily going right, he isn't necessarily the quarterback that's going to win you the game. And that's something I have to see from him this season. It's something I have to see in week 1 from Cade is if something isn't going right, which in week 1 it's going to be the case, is he good enough to go out there and win the game for you? Because right now I just see him as a consistent NFL starting caliber quarterback. I'd put him near Bo Nix is kind of the comparison I give him. I think that's a fair comparison. He'd have one less season starting than Bo did coming out of the draft, but he's still a first-round pick in my eyes. Is there any things about Cade that you like that you don't like?
The big thing I don't like is what you already touched on, is he doesn't really go out and win games, or at least he hasn't yet. He's not someone that elevates the players around him. He's more of a system quarterback currently, which there's nothing wrong with that. But you just don't really see, talking about him, being a top 3 quarterback in an early first grade. If he continues to just show that, there's no way he ends up being the first QB taken. The first QB off the board isn't like a safe QB pick. But I also will say is we've kind of seen a recent trend of NFL teams not caring as much about the age or experience of quarterbacks. Think about last year. Bo Nix and Michael Penix both got drafted very high. I personally expected them to slide a little bit because it was like, oh, they're old. Like, you know what you're going to get from them. There is nothing more to tap into. And teams don't care as long as you can play quarterback at a good rate. But, yeah, I would love to see him go week 1 against a good LSU team that people were very high on and be like, nope, I'm here. Dice them up. Make plays when they're needed. Maybe hit a couple big runs, key third down scrambles for a first down, stuff like that. And show that he can kind of take the reins of an offense and lead them to a win. Because that's my biggest knock, but he does throw a nice ball.
Yeah, well, is the quote from his OC or QB coach going into I think last season was like, he was asked in an interview, how many games does Cade need to win? And he said 0. I just needed to manage them.
It was after the Georgia game, yeah. That's basically exactly what it was. And so some of it could be what Clemson is asking him to do. That's holding him back, right? But at the same time, I can't imagine that Clemson's in a game at South Carolina where they're struggling to move the ball. Clemson's going, yeah, it's all good. Like, don't try and make plays for us. Mm-hmm. I do think a lot of it's still on him.
He's going to have to because of what they've got in their running back room as well. They're not going to have the typical Clemson running attack. And so the season is on Cade's shoulders for the most part, unless the defense just becomes a top 3 defense in college football. He'll have a ton to prove, but he's still, right now, a top 10 pick for me. I think he's shown enough on tape to earn that right. That leads into my next quarterback, who is not a top 10 pick at least, but he's still a first-round grade for me, and that's Garrett Nussmeier. This is a pure pocket passer. One of the things I mentioned that I love about his game is he floats into space really well. He knows, like, even if the pocket is not breaking down, how to roll out of the pocket, roll into a spot where there is nobody near him and nobody rushing him. But he also does it well in rolling to the spot where the play is going as well. I think he's got the best zip on the ball out of anyone in the draft. He throws a really, really, really tight spiral. And because of that, he can fit it into really tight windows. He's really accurate with it. It doesn't really matter, conditions, because his ability to put the zip on the ball keeps it flying through windy conditions, rainy conditions, which he has not experienced a ton. In fact, he may have only played in one rain game ever. It doesn't rain in Death Valley. That's kind of their saying down there at LSU, is it never rains in Death Valley, which it rarely does. But Garrett plays exceptional from the pocket. The biggest thing for him right now, there's just zero speed threat. And at 6'2", it looks like he's tiny. He looks tiny. You wouldn't think he was 6'2". I think a lot of us would think he's 5'11", 6 foot. And because of the offensive line that he's played in, especially last year, I don't know about his durability. I think if he was in a bad offensive line and got hit 3 to 4 times a game, he would get hurt more often than not. He's just not physically built big enough to withstand hits from NFL defensive linemen. He's got ton to prove this season, as every single guy on this list does. I think he's the guy that he has to – I don't think he has to earn his first round. I think he could play kind of bad this season and still be taken in the first round just because of how physically gifted he is as a quarterback just alone. I think LSU could go 7-5, 8-4, and it wouldn't matter. I think Garrett would still be up there in that first round. He's kind of already solidified that. And he's certainly solidified that from a scout perspective and from a GM perspective and a media perspective. So I don't expect him to fall out of the first round. But I don't expect him to rise really high this year.
The physical limitations are pretty tough. And then I just want to say this real quick, and then I'll kick it to you, Sanders. Talking about the ball he throws, if I wanted any quarterback to go win an arcade game for me, he's the guy I'm picking because he's so accurate. He hits the tight windows, which can get him into a little bit of trouble because he will just start to force stuff into the smallest of windows, make some ill-advised throws. But no, he would be the guy that would just go hit 10 targets in a row that, the arcade game no one can beat, win me the big old plush panda bear, and I'd walk away happy.
Which side of the cutoff for potential first overall pick is he on? Do you think is that a possibility for him, or have we already passed that line?
What do you mean?
So, I'm not going to hold you at your prediction or anything, but if you've ranked these guys, is he a guy you could see going first, or?
No, I don't see him going first overall.
Okay, so Sellers, Aller, Klubnik, could those three guys?
I think. I think those are the three guys.
Three.
Go
so
first.
Nussmeier
Arch Manning would be in that conversation, but those would be the three guys. He's not a first round pick or not a first overall pick. I think has a chance to get the top 10, but that would be the highest I'd take him.
Okay, so he is the start of a second tier kind of.
Sure, I think that's fair.